So Literature Festival is in full swing in the UK, and yesterday I popped along to Cheltenham Literature Festival. I had massive FOMO last year because I didn't go to any events and saw everybody posting about them online and really felt like I missed out, and Cheltenham isn't a million miles away from me. So this year I was not missing out. I booked just 2 events last night. And had a really great time. I got to meet a friend from Instagram, which was really lovely, and it's just such a lovely atmosphere in Cheltenham this time of year, especially on like a dry, crisp autumn evening. It's all set up in one of the parks in the centre of town. There's just such a lovely buzz about the place. And so, of course, books were acquired. One of the events that I went to was to see Sayaka Murata. I didn't actually pick up any of her books, and I deeply regret it now because I really wish, having had the opportunity to hear her speak, and with her being there, that I'd got something signed. But you live and you learn. But she was just so interesting. She is just has the most unique mind, and her approach to writing is like nothing I've ever heard before. She was just a fantastic author to hear speak. So if you ever get the opportunity to see her live, I'd really recommend it. But let me show you the books that I got. So first stop was the Waterstones store on site. They had a really great selection, but they had a table of books that was, you know how they kind of like do little tables of themed books. They had one table that was called Small But Perfectly Formed. So from that table, I picked up Timbuktu by Paul Auster. The reason that I picked this up, I hope is obvious to you if you've been around for a little while, and it's because it's got a dog on the cover. And it actually has a dog main character. So this is about Mr. Bones, this dog, and his sidekick and owner, Mr. Christmas. I don't think this is festive, I think that's just his name. And they live in, I want to say New York or DC or somewhere in America, and they're going to find someone that Mr. Christmas, what's his name? Willie Christmas. Great name. They're on an adventure and a mission to find someone from Willie Christmas's past. I think it sounds lovely, and you know me with books with dogs in. So this was the only book that I bought. One of the other events that I booked to go to was a proof party. I've never been to a proof party before. So this is where publishers have like a couple of new authors that have got books coming out soon. You get to hear them talk about the books, and you get to take away a copy of the proof too. So I booked to go to the double-day proof party. And got to meet 3 lovely authors. So the first book that we heard about was To the Moon and Back by Eliana Ramage. She has written this book, which has a Native American main character, and it's a coming of age story, and the main character wants to become an astronaut. And I think it's about her sense of identity and her family relationships. She is queer and has a girlfriend, and it's about her kind of from a young age up until, I don't know where it goes up until in her life, but trying to achieve that dream of becoming an astronaut and that kind of sense of hope and aspiration. It sounded very lovely. The author explained that she's been writing this for a long time. I think she said she started it maybe as a teenager, because the spark of inspiration came from experiences that she had at school or college, and she's finished it in her 30s. So this has been a really long time in the making, which I think is really special in a lot of ways. So yeah, I think it sounds very lovely. I've also, having had a flick through, noticed that there's some mixed media in here. So if that's your thing, that's maybe something to keep an eye out. This is out in March 2026. The next book that we heard about was Lost Lambs by Madeline. Now, I've heard and seen lots of people buzzing about this online already, and I can totally see why. It sounds absolutely hilarious. The author was very funny too. So this is about a kind of dysfunctional family living in a kind of like seemingly, I don't know what you call normal, but conventional kind of family unit in a seaside town in America. I think the father is a preacher, and then they've got 3 daughters. The wife decides that, and they're all kind of like unhappy in their own kind of like ways, and they're all looking to address that in their own kind of like different and slightly messed up ways. So I think the wife decides she wants an open marriage and the husband doesn't, and that obviously causes some tensions and conflicts. And one of the daughters accidentally starts a relationship with a terrorist. So there's a lot of in here that sounds like a kind of comedy of errors, if you like. It sounds like quite a dark comedy. So yeah, I think that sounds really super. So I'd be tempted to pick that up fairly soon. This is out in February 2026. And then the third book that we heard about was Best Offer Wins. This is by Marisa Kashino. This I think is also going to be a funny book. So this is about a woman who is absolutely hell-bent on buying the perfect real estate in America. And she is willing to do that at any cost. And I think from what we heard yesterday, this is kind of like a gripping, slightly twisty, kind of black satirical thriller about the lengths that this woman will go to get her dream house. So she kind of like infiltrates the family of the people whose house that she thinks is soon coming to market, and yeah, it's fairly free of scruples, shall we say. But yes, it was described as like a lot of fun, and it sounds like quite pacey. So this is another one that I'd be tempted to pick up fairly quickly. Then, as we were leaving, we had another bag of books pressed into our hands from the Canongate proof party. So I didn't go to that one, so didn't hear the authors talk about these books, but they obviously had a few spare bags of books going. So, you know, who am I to say no to that? So we'll be finding out about these together. So the first up is The Comfort of Distant Stars. This is by Echeruo. And let's find a description of what this book is about. Azeni is no ordinary child. He sees things others don't. Despite the burden of these visions, his precocious nature blossoms into genius, and Azemi grows up to be a gifted mathematician and physicist. When he leaves Nigeria and his adoring family behind to study at Cornell in the US, he remains haunted by most persistent vision, Anyanwu, the sun god. While Azeni is adjusting to his new life in America, Anyanwu's presence takes on an increasingly sinister and malevolent form, and chaos reigns. It's enough to make anyone lose their grip on reality. This is a bold coming-of-age tale blending physics, philosophy and Igbo cosmology. Examining how we understand our place in the universe, it ponders the big questions we all ask ourselves about the nature of time and of being, ultimately revealing the startling vulnerability of the human mind. Wow. There's quite a lot in there. So that's also out in March 2026. Next up we have At Sea by Y.M. Abdel-Magied. This is a lovely cover. It looks like an oil rig, I think, but the splash of the sea is really beautiful. Okay, let's see. Being one of the boys is one thing, being the boss of the boys was something else altogether. Expert driller Zainab is called to take charge of a high-stakes oil rig operation. Unable to resist the opportunity, she leaves behind her pregnant sister and heads offshore for the job of her life. But there's a catch. The rig is teetering on the edge of disaster, and Zainab is the only woman amongst a crew of hardened men who want absolutely nothing to do with her. At the helm, but forced to prove herself at every turn, Zainab labours to investigate the rig's imminent collapse. She quickly grasps that the real danger lies in the cold calculations and base desires of the men she is forced to spend every waking moment with. As tensions rise and secrets unravel, Zainab races to uncover the truth bubbling below and fend off the looming catastrophe. Explosive and thought-provoking, At Sea is an exhilarating story about the clash of ambition, principle and prejudice, and the unexpected consequences of our choices. Ooh, I am getting like women's prize vibes from that. Yeah, that sounds really great. And last but not least, we have Our Outnumbered Bones by Katya, Balen. this is another lovely cover. Okay, let's find a description. When her life is unexpectedly upended, Anna escapes London and her husband for a remote cottage in the wetlands, sold in rural England. She hopes the solitude might unblock the novels she can't bring herself to write, sold again. Out in the marshes, the locals discover something shocking. Out in the marshes, the locals discover something shocking, risen to the surface after many years buried in the silty earth. Anna is drawn to the site, fascinated and shaken by what she finds there, and as researchers descend, her curiosity gives way to obsession. An unsettling, propulsive and fiercely tender novel about buried loss and renewal, Our Outnumbered Bones explores how we must unearth the past in order to make peace with what we've lost. I think that sounds like a Kerry book. That sounds super. That's out in February 2026. Another potential for Women's Prize. Let's see. So those are the books that I have acquired in a really, really lovely evening spent at Cheltenham Literature Festival. Ta-da! Let me know what you would start with, which ones kind of pique your interest the most. I'd be really interested to hear. Pop it in the comments. Which book would you pick up first? Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you again in the next video.